Have you ever been told that silence is your greatest weapon? That staying quiet will teach someone a lesson, make them miss you, or leave them regretting their choices. Maybe you've even tried it, clinging to this idea that your silence could somehow control someone else's emotions. But let me ask you, has it worked? Did they come running back? Or did it leave you feeling emptier than before? The truth is, much of what you've been told about silence is a lie. It's a lie wrapped in clever words and comforting fantasies, feeding your hope that the absence of your voice will create a void in their life. But here's the reality. That void isn't theirs, it's yours. And it's been growing every time you've stayed silent for the wrong reasons. Let me be clear. Silence is powerful, but it's not the weapon you think it is. Used improperly, it won't hurt them, it will hurt you. It strips away your peace, ties you to their actions, and leaves you locked in a battle you can't win. But when used correctly, silence becomes a tool for transformation. It's not about killing them with regret. It's about killing the part of you that still needs their approval. In this video, we're diving deep into the truth behind your silence. We'll dismantle the myths and uncover the power of real silence, the kind that liberates you instead of trapping you. By the end of this journey, you won't just understand silence, you'll wield it like a master. And trust me, once you embrace this, you'll never see relationships, heartbreak, or yourself the same way again. So, are you ready to explore this? Let's begin. 1. The truth about silence. Silence. It feels powerful, doesn't it? There's something about withholding words that makes it seem like you're holding all the cards. But let's dig deeper. What is silence really? Is it a calculated move to create regret in their heart? Or is it something else entirely? Let me ask you, how many times have you used silence, not as an act of power, but as a shield? A way to protect yourself because their words, their actions, or their indifference hurt too much to confront. Now think about what happened next. Did they notice? Did they reach out begging for forgiveness or expressing their regret? Or did life move on for them while you were left alone with your pain, still clinging to the idea that they'd realize what they lost? If you're being honest, the answer is probably the latter. Here's the harsh truth. Silence doesn't control them. It never has. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence, when used as a game, is nothing more than noise disguised as quiet. It's a scream for attention without ever saying a word. But real silence, the kind that transforms, isn't about them. It's about you. Oh, let's break this down. Society has fed you a fantasy. If you go silent, they'll miss you. They'll feel the absence you've created and be consumed by regret. But this fantasy is a trap. It keeps you tethered to their emotions, their reactions, their choices. Instead of empowering you, it enslaves you to the hope that they'll come back. And every moment you spend waiting for that reaction is a moment you lose control of your own life. Imagine this, you're holding a rope, pulling with all your might, trying to keep them close. Your hands are raw, bleeding and burning from the effort. But here's the truth, they've already let go. You're pulling on dead weight, fighting a battle that exists only in your mind. What would happen if you let go? What if you stopped fighting to control what you never truly had control over? Epictetus, another Stoic master, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Your silence becomes powerful not when it's aimed at them, but when it frees you. It's not about creating a void in their life. It's about reclaiming the space they've been occupying in yours. Now ask yourself, why are you still trying to create regret in someone who didn't value you in the first place? Why are you pouring so much energy into their feelings, their reactions, their life, when the real question is, what are you doing for yourself? This isn't about them anymore. It's about you dropping the rope, walking away, and choosing peace over pain. Picture this, silence as a forest fire. At first it feels destructive, overwhelming, out of control. But what does fire do? It clears the dead wood, the undergrowth, the decay. It makes room for something new to grow. This is what true silence does. It burns away the lies, the heartbreak, and the endless cycles of pain you've been stuck in. And what's left? Fertile ground, a space to rebuild. So let me ask you again, are you using silence to hurt them or to heal yourself? Because the former will leave you trapped in the same patterns of pain, while the latter will set you free. It's time to stop screaming into the void, hoping they'll hear you. It's time to start building something extraordinary with the silence they've left behind. Write this in the comments right now. I dropped the rope. Say it out loud. Write it down. Let this be the moment you choose to let go of the struggle and embrace the freedom that comes with true silence. Because from here on out, you're not fighting to be seen or heard. You're standing tall in your own power, and that is where the real transformation begins. 2. The void within. Let's face it, silence doesn't just create a void in their life. It exposes the void that's been in yours all along. You've felt it, haven't you? That aching emptiness, the questions that keep you up at night, the relentless why circling your mind. Why wasn't I enough? Why didn't they fight for me? Why does it feel like I'm the only one suffering while they move on without a second thought? But let me ask you something. Was this void created by their absence, or was it already there? If you're honest, you'll see the truth. That void, the one that gnaws at you, that grows every time you stay silent and wait for them to notice, it's not new. It's been there all along. In the quiet moments when you were sitting beside them but felt miles apart. In the conversations where their eyes wandered. In the love you gave that was never fully returned. It's hard to admit, isn't it, that the void isn't about their leaving but about the parts of yourself you gave away without realizing they weren't coming back. The Stoics understood this pain deeply. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look back over the past, with its changing empires that rose and fell, and you can foresee the future too." This isn't the first time you've poured so much of yourself into someone who didn't pour back, is it? And if you don't face the void within, it won't be the last. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a well, bucket in hand, drawing water to give to someone else. You're thirsty too, but you don't stop. You keep drawing, keep giving, because maybe, just maybe, they'll notice your effort. They'll finally see how much you're giving. But they don't. And now, the well is dry. You're left standing there, parched, staring into the emptiness of what you thought would sustain you. That's the void. It's not a punishment, it's a wake-up call. The void isn't your enemy, it's your mirror. It forces you to confront how much of yourself you've poured out, trying to fill someone else's life with meaning while neglecting your own. It's uncomfortable, I know. But let me ask you, how long are you going to stare into that emptiness, hoping they'll come back with a bucket of water for you? How long are you going to wait for someone who's already shown you they weren't willing to pour into your well? Here's the truth you need to hear. The void doesn't need to be filled by them. It can't be. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom doesn't come from someone else returning what they took from you. It comes from you realizing that the well wasn't meant to be filled by anyone but you. It's time to stop staring into the void and start building from it. Think of it this way. The void is like a black hole, pulling everything around it into its center. But even black holes don't stay empty forever. They collapse, and from that collapse, stars are born. That's your void. It's not the end of you. It's the beginning. It's the space where you stop chasing and start creating, where you rebuild piece by piece, filling the emptiness with your own strength, peace, and worth. This is the lesson silence teaches us, not how to punish others, but how to set ourselves free. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, what stands in the way becomes the way. The void feels like it's in your way, doesn't it? It feels overwhelming, inescapable. But it's not there to block you, it's there to guide you. It's showing you where you've been giving too much and receiving too little, where you've been chasing validation instead of finding it within. Let me ask you one more thing. If you don't take back control of your life now, then when? How many more nights will you spend staring into the void, waiting for someone else to come and fill it for you? The void isn't a curse, it's an opportunity. It's a blank canvas where you can finally create the life you deserve. but only if you're willing to let go of the fantasy that someone else will fix it for you. Write this in the comments right now. I reclaim myself. Say it out loud. Write it down. Let it be your declaration that the void will no longer define you, it will refine you. This is where your transformation begins. And if you're feeling this message, if this is resonating with the deepest part of you, take a moment to show it. Hit that like button and comment number 1 right now if this is speaking to you. Don't keep this clarity to yourself. Subscribe to the channel and join a community of growth, strength, and truth. Together, we're stepping into something extraordinary. Let's rise. 3. Dropping the rope. Picture this. You're standing on a ledge, gripping a rope so tightly that your hands are raw, blistered, and bleeding. On the other end, someone is dangling, or so you think. You've been pulling with all your might, believing that if you hold on just a little longer, they'll find their way back to you. But here's the reality: they let go a long time ago. You're not pulling them closer, you're holding on to dead weight. So why are you still gripping that rope? Let's take a moment to really look at this metaphor. The rope represents all the effort you've been pouring into keeping a connection alive. It's your attempts to maintain a relationship, get closure, or prove your worth to someone who's no longer invested. And every second you hold on, the rope cuts deeper, not into them, but into you. You're left exhausted, drained, and questioning why they don't seem to feel the same pain. Now, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what are you really holding on to? Is it them, or is it the idea of who they used to be? Is it the version of yourself that you were when they were in your life? Or maybe it's the hope that if you just try harder, they'll notice your effort, regret their actions, and come running back. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." What does this mean for you? It means that as long as you're gripping that rope, you're tethered to something outside your control, their choices, their actions, their feelings. You're not holding them accountable. You're holding yourself hostage. Think back to all the times you've given them the silent treatment, thinking it would spark something inside them. Did it work? Did they reach out apologizing, begging for forgiveness, or did their life continue as if nothing had changed? And while you waited, holding that rope with everything you had, what did it cost you? Your peace, your time, your sense of self-worth. Here's the truth. Holding the rope doesn't keep them connected to you. It keeps you connected to the pain. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The strength isn't in pulling harder. It's in letting go. Because when you drop the rope, you stop fighting a battle that was never yours to win. You stop bleeding for someone who doesn't even realize you're wounded. Dropping the rope doesn't mean you're giving up, it means you're reclaiming your power. Imagine what it would feel like to release that tension, to let go of the struggle and the constant need for validation. Your hands might be bruised, yes, but they'll heal. And with that freedom, you can finally start using your energy to build something meaningful for yourself. Let me ask you this. What's keeping you from letting go? Is it fear? Fear that if you release the rope, they'll forget you completely, that you'll lose the last thread of connection. Or maybe it's guilt, the belief that if you let go, you're abandoning them, even if they've already abandoned you. But here's the reality, holding on isn't saving them. It's destroying you. Epictetus reminds us it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Their actions, their silence, their indifference, those are outside your control. But your reaction, that's yours. And by dropping the rope, you're not just choosing to walk away from them. You're choosing to walk toward yourself. Imagine this moment. You unclench your fists, letting the rope slip through your hands. For the first time in what feels like forever, you're not pulling, not struggling, not fighting. There's a weight that lifts, a clarity that rushes in. Yes, there's pain in letting go, but that pain is temporary. The freedom that follows, that's lasting. Think of silence like a mirror. When you use it to manipulate, it distorts your reflection. But when you use it to let go, it reveals the truth. You've been holding yourself back, tied to someone who isn't holding on to you. Dropping the rope allows you to step out of their shadow and into your own light. Here's something powerful to consider. What could you accomplish if you redirected all the energy you've been using to hold on? What could you build, create, or experience if you weren't wasting your strength on someone who's already moved on? Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That rope feels like an obstacle, doesn't it? It feels like the barrier between you and your peace. But by letting go, that very obstacle becomes your path to freedom. The rope isn't your lifeline. It's your chain. And the moment you release it, you reclaim your ability to move forward. So the question is, are you ready to drop the rope? Are you ready to stop fighting for someone else's approval and start living for your own peace? Because the truth is, the longer you hold on, the more you lose. And the moment you let go, you win, not them, but yourself. This is your chance to rise above, to break free, and to build a life that no longer revolves around their presence or their absence. It's time to let go. It's time to walk forward. Because what's waiting for you on the other side of that rope isn't just freedom, it's strength, clarity, and the life you were always meant to lead. Let's rise together. 4. The fantasy of regret. Let's talk about the fantasy, the one they sold you. You've been told that your silence will spark regret, that it will create a void so unbearable in their life that they'll be haunted by what they've lost. You imagine them sitting there, consumed by thoughts of you, unable to move on. Sounds satisfying, doesn't it? But here's the truth you don't want to hear. It's a lie. Let me ask you this. How many times have you gone silent, expecting them to reach out, only to hear nothing but more silence in return? How did that feel? Did it make you feel powerful, or did it leave you questioning yourself even more? That's the danger of the fantasy. It doesn't just fail to deliver the results you want, it turns into a trap. You sit there waiting, hoping, replaying scenarios in your mind, and with every passing moment, your self-worth takes another hit. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Their regret, their reaction, their feelings, those are outside events. You can't control them, no matter how much silence you bring into their life. The fantasy of regret keeps you stuck, not because it's real, but because you want it to be. Think about this. If they didn't value you when they had you, what makes you think they'll sit around mourning your absence? It's a harsh truth, but one you need to face. Most of the time, their life moves on, unchanged, while you're the one left holding on to this fantasy that your silence will somehow change their mind. Let's dig into why this fantasy is so dangerous. Silence, when used as manipulation, doesn't empower you, it enslaves you. It ties your peace to their reaction. You become so focused on their potential regret that you stop healing, stop growing, and stop living. You're not using silence as a tool for transformation. You're using it as a way to beg for attention without saying a word. Imagine this. You're standing in a desert, holding your phone, staring at it, waiting for a message that never comes. The longer you stand there, the thirstier you get. But instead of moving forward to find water, you stay rooted in place, convinced that if you just wait long enough, the rain will come. That's what living in the fantasy of regret feels like, a self-inflicted drought. And here's the kicker. When the rain doesn't come, it's not them who regrets, it's you. You regret the wasted time, the wasted energy, the wasted hope. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Their regret is beyond your control. Their silence doesn't mean they're plotting or mourning or missing you. More often than not, it means they've moved on. And here's where the real power lies, so can you. Let me ask you, if you stopped waiting for their regret, what could you accomplish? What could you build, create, or heal within yourself? Because the point of silence isn't to manipulate them, it's to liberate you. When you let go of the fantasy, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your focus. You stop pouring your strength into them and start pouring it into yourself. Picture silence not as a weapon, but as a seed. If you keep digging it up, checking to see if it's growing, it'll never take root. But if you leave it alone and focus on nurturing yourself, that seed will grow into something strong and unshakable. That's what Stoicism teaches us. not to dwell on what we can't control, but to cultivate what we can. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The fantasy of their regret is the impediment. It feels like a barrier, doesn't it? It feels like the one thing standing between you and closure. But breaking free from that fantasy is the way forward. It's not their regret that sets you free. It's your decision to stop waiting for it. Here's what I want you to take from this. Silence won't make them regret. It won't bring them back. But it can set you free if you let it. Instead of using silence as a game, use it as a forge. Let it shape you, strengthen you, and prepare you for a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's acknowledgement. So, if this is resonating with you, if you're ready to let go of the fantasy and start living for yourself, let me know. Hit that like button and comment number 1 right now to show you're ready to take back your power. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is where we grow, heal, and rise together. You don't have to navigate this alone. Let's keep moving forward. 5. Reclaiming your crown. Imagine a crown, gleaming, untouchable, resting atop your head. For too long, you've handed this crown over to someone else. Maybe you gave it to them willingly, thinking they'd recognize its worth, thinking they'd cherish it. Or perhaps they didn't even ask for it, but you placed it in their hands anyway, hoping they'd see you as enough. And what did they do? They tarnished it. They let it gather dust. They left it lying in the dirt while you stood by, waiting for them to notice the treasure they had. Let me ask you, why did you give them your crown in the first place? Was it out of love? Out of fear? Out of a desperate need for validation? It's not an easy question to answer, but it's one you need to face. Because here's the truth. They didn't earn your crown, and they didn't deserve it. And now, it's time to take it back. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." What does that mean for you? It means the life you've been living, bent around their approval, shaped by their indifference, isn't really living. Every time you adjusted yourself to fit into their world, every time you dimmed your light so they wouldn't feel overshadowed, every time you questioned your worth because they couldn't see it, you gave away your crown. You stopped living for yourself and started living for them. Here's something you need to understand. Your crown is yours. It always has been. No one can truly take it from you, but you can forget how to wear it. And that's what's happened. You've been so busy chasing their validation, their recognition, their love, that you forgot how to recognize your own worth. You've been waiting for them to hand the crown back to you, but they never will, because they don't even know how to hold it. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. The crown represents your mastery over yourself, your self-worth, your identity, your power. And reclaiming it doesn't mean waiting for someone else to finally see you. It means standing tall, dusting off the crown and placing it firmly back on your head. Not because they've changed, but because you have. Think about all the times you bent over backward for their approval. The nights you spent questioning your worth because they didn't see it. The moments you sacrificed your own needs just to make them happy. What did it get you? An empty throne and a bruised soul. But here's the beautiful thing about bruises: they heal. And when they do, you're stronger than before. Let's get real for a moment. Why do you keep handing your crown to people who don't deserve it? People who don't even know what to do with it. If they couldn't value your crown when you gave it to them, they'll never value it, no matter how much you try to prove its worth. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Stop trying to convince them. Stop trying to prove yourself. Be the person who doesn't need their approval, because your worth doesn't depend on their recognition. Reclaiming your crown isn't about vengeance or proving them wrong. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and finally seeing the person who's been there all along, the one who doesn't need to beg for love, chase validation, or fight for attention. It's about recognizing that you don't need their acknowledgement to wear your crown with pride. Imagine this moment. You're standing before your throne, crown in hand. You've been hesitating, haven't you? You've been wondering if you're ready to wear it again, if you're worthy of it. But let me tell you something, you've always been worthy. The crown isn't something you earn. It's something you claim. And the moment you place it back on your head, everything changes. The Stoics teach us to focus on what's within our control, and your crown, your self-worth, is firmly within your control. It's not about them. It never was. It's about you. It's about standing tall and declaring, "This is who I am. This is my power. This is my life." And once you reclaim your crown, something extraordinary happens. They lose all control over you. They don't get to define your worth anymore. They don't get to dictate your happiness. They don't even get to touch your crown. Think of this as the turning point. You've spent so much time living for them, trying to fit into their world, that you forgot how to rule your own. But now you're taking it all back. You're stepping into your power, your strength, your sovereignty. And once you do, you'll see how little their presence or absence matters. Because when you wear your crown, you're not just surviving, you're reigning. This is your moment. Take it. Dust off your crown, place it on your head, and walk forward like the ruler of your own life. Because that's exactly who you are. 6. The Forge of Self-Reinvention. Picture yourself standing in a forge, a place of fire, heat, and transformation. This isn't a space for comfort. It's not gentle or easy. The forge is where raw metal is shaped, hammered, and refined until it becomes something unbreakable. This is where you are now, and the silence you've been sitting with. That's the fire. You might think, why does it have to be this hard? Why can't I just move on without all this pain? But let me ask you, what happens to steel without the forge? Without the fire, without the hammering, it stays soft, unformed, and vulnerable. It doesn't become a blade. And just like that steel, you need this fire to burn away the parts of you that are holding you back. The doubts, the insecurities, the need for their approval. This is the forge of self-reinvention. And while it's not easy, it's necessary. Epictetus said, first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So who do you want to be? Not for them, not for anyone else, but for yourself. What kind of life do you want to build when you're no longer tied to their absence, their silence, or their rejection? The forge isn't about becoming someone new, it's about uncovering who you were meant to be all along. It's about stripping away everything that isn't truly you. Let's be real. This process is uncomfortable. It's easier to stay where you are, hoping that time will fix everything. But ask yourself, how much longer are you willing to wait? How many more days, weeks, or years are you going to spend tied to the pain of the past, hoping that things will magically change? Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. It's not enough to hope for transformation. You have to step into the fire and make it happen. Here's what the forge looks like in action. It's not glamorous. It's the quiet work of reflection, healing, and growth. It's sitting with your pain instead of running from it. It's asking yourself hard questions like, why did I need their validation in the first place? What part of me felt incomplete without their approval? And then it's taking action. It's building habits that strengthen you, surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, and focusing on goals that are for you, not anyone else. Imagine this. Every strike of the hammer is shaping you. The moments you spend in silence, reflecting on what you've learned, are cooling the fire. The steps you take toward growth, whether it's journaling, meditating, or simply letting go of something that no longer serves you, are sharpening the blade. Each choice you make in the forge is preparing you to emerge stronger, sharper, and more resilient than before. But here's the catch: the forge doesn't work without effort. You can't just sit back and hope to change. You have to step into the heat willingly. You have to trust that the fire isn't here to destroy you, it's here to transform you. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The pain, the silence, the rejection, it feels like it's in your way, doesn't it? But it's not. It's the way forward. The fire is the path to freedom. Let me ask you, what's been holding you back from stepping into the forge? Is it fear of the unknown? Fear that you'll lose a part of yourself in the process. But what if the part you're afraid of losing is the part that's been keeping you stuck? What if letting go isn't the end, but the beginning? The Forge of Self-Reinvention isn't about forgetting what you've been through. It's about using it as fuel. The pain you've felt, the lessons you've learned, they're not wasted. They're the raw material that you'll use to rebuild yourself. Every heartbreak, every moment of doubt, every time you've questioned your worth, it's all part of the process. It's all part of what makes you unbreakable. Now imagine walking out of that forge. You're not the same person who entered. You're stronger, you're sharper, and most importantly, you're free. Free from the weight of their silence. Free from the need for their approval. Free to live a life that's entirely your own. If this message is resonating with you, if you're ready to step into the forge and embrace the fire, let me know. Hit that like button and comment number 1 to show that you're ready for this transformation. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is where we rise, rebuild, and reclaim our lives together. Your journey is just beginning and you don't have to walk it alone. Let's keep moving forward. 7. The mirror of truth. There's a mirror in front of you, and it doesn't lie. It doesn't distort. It doesn't sugarcoat. When you stand in front of it, it reflects everything, the raw, unfiltered truth about who you are, what you've been through, and the choices you've made. It shows you the pain they caused, but it also shows you the pain you've caused yourself. This mirror, as brutal as it may seem, is the key to your freedom. Let's get real. Why is it so hard to look into that mirror? Why do we avoid the truth it reflects? Because deep down, we know what it's going to show us. It's going to force us to face the uncomfortable reality that their silence isn't the real problem. It's what their silence has awakened in us. It's the questions that won't stop circling our minds. Why wasn't I enough? Why didn't they choose me? Why didn't they fight for me? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." Think about that for a moment. Their silence didn't hurt you because of what it was. It hurt you because of how you interpreted it. You turned their indifference into a statement about your worth. But here's the truth. Their silence isn't about you. It never was. It's a reflection of their priorities, their inability to see your value, not a judgment of your worth. Now, here's the hard part. The mirror also shows you the role you've played in your own suffering. Every time you stayed silent, hoping they'd notice, you gave them power over your emotions. Every time you let their indifference chip away at your confidence, you handed them your crown. And every time you replayed their actions in your mind, trying to make sense of their choices, you trapped yourself in their story instead of writing your own. Marcus Aurelius reminds us you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The mirror shows you what you already know. You've been looking for your worth in the wrong place. You've been chasing their validation instead of finding it within yourself. And as painful as that realization is, it's also liberating. Because once you see it, you can change it. Imagine standing in a dark room, holding a lantern. The mirror is the light that reveals the mess you've been standing in, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities. It's overwhelming at first, but here's the thing. You can't clean up the mess until you see it. And once you see it, you can start to put things back in order. But let's go deeper. The mirror doesn't just reflect your pain, it also reflects your potential. It shows you the strength that's been hiding beneath the surface, waiting for you to claim it. It shows you that you're not defined by their silence or their rejection, but by how you rise from it. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control, and the mirror is a reminder that the only thing you've ever truly had control over is yourself. Let me ask you, what do you see when you look in the mirror? Do you see someone broken by their silence, or do you see someone ready to rise from it? Do you see someone defined by their absence, or someone ready to reclaim their life? The mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't decide. That's your choice. The hardest part of facing the mirror is owning the truth it shows you. It's admitting that you've been waiting for their actions to fix something inside you, when in reality that's a job only you can do. It's realizing that the power you've been searching for has been within you all along. and it's deciding once and for all that you're done giving that power away. Epictetus also said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is the moment where you decide who you want to be. Not the person who waits for their regret, not the person who tries to decode their silence, but the person who owns their worth, their strength, and their future. Think of the mirror as a tool, not a punishment. It's not there to shame you, it's there to guide you. It's there to show you the gaps in your foundation so you can rebuild stronger. And when you step away from that mirror, you're not the same person who stood before it. You're someone who sees clearly now. Someone who's ready to stop blaming, stop waiting, and start living. This is where real transformation begins, not in their actions, but in your reflection. Because when you face the mirror and accept its truth, you stop running. You stop hiding. You stop chasing their validation and start finding your own. And that is where your power lies. 8. The legacy of silence. Imagine standing in a room so still, so quiet, that it feels alive. This isn't the kind of silence that comes from shutting others out or hoping they'll miss you. This is a different kind of silence, one that builds, transforms, and leaves a legacy. The question is, what kind of legacy will your silence create? For too long, you've been taught that silence is a tool for punishment. That if you stay quiet, if you disappear, your absence will echo in their life, leaving them to regret what they've lost. But let's turn that idea on its head. What if silence wasn't about them at all? What if, instead of using it to control their emotions, you used it to reclaim your own power? What if your silence wasn't just a reaction, but a foundation for something extraordinary? Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." Silence isn't about making them notice you. It's about creating a life so full, so vibrant, so unapologetically yours that their opinion becomes irrelevant. When you stop reacting to their absence and start building in the quiet, you create a legacy, not of pain or regret, but of strength and freedom. Think of a mountain. For years, the winds of rejection, indifference, and silence have tried to wear it down. But the mountain doesn't crumble under the wind. It stands tall, unshaken, enduring. That's the kind of legacy your silence can create, not as a weapon, but as a declaration. I am unmovable. Now let's go deeper. What do you want your silence to say about you? Do you want it to speak of longing, bitterness, and waiting? Or do you want it to tell a story of resilience, growth, and triumph? Your silence has the power to inspire, not by making them regret their actions, but by showing others what's possible when you rise above. Imagine this. Someone is watching you. Maybe it's a friend, a sibling, or even a stranger who stumbles across your story. They're stuck in their own cycle of heartbreak, their own loop of chasing validation. They see you, not just surviving, but thriving. Your silence becomes their strength, your actions their roadmap. That's the ripple effect of a legacy built in the quiet. The Stoics believe that our actions echo far beyond our immediate circumstances. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, what we do now echoes in eternity. Your silence, when used to build rather than punish, becomes more than a personal journey. It becomes a beacon for others. It says, this is how you rise. This is how you thrive. But let's be honest. Building a legacy isn't easy. It's not something you accomplish overnight. It's built in the small, quiet moments, the times you choose growth over bitterness, self-respect over validation, and peace over chaos. Every time you focus on what you can control instead of what you can't, you're adding to your legacy. Every time you invest in yourself instead of waiting for someone else to pour into you, you're shaping the story your silence will tell. So let me ask you, what kind of legacy are you building with your silence? Are you using it as a space to heal, to grow, to thrive? Or are you still waiting, still hoping that someone else's regret will fill the void they left behind? Because here's the truth, their regret, even if it comes, won't rebuild you. Only you can do that. Your silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength. It's the place where you stop explaining, stop justifying, and start creating. It's the moment you decide to stop reacting to their actions and start building a life that speaks for itself. If this is hitting home, if you're ready to embrace the power of silence and use it to create something extraordinary, let me know. hit that like button and comment number 1 to show that you're ready to take this step. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Together, we're building more than just personal growth. We're building legacies. Let's rise one quiet moment at a time. So here we are. You've walked through the truth about silence, faced the void within, dropped the rope, reclaimed your crown, and stepped into the forge of self-reinvention. You've looked into the mirror of truth and begun to understand how your silence, when used wisely, can create a legacy. But now, the question remains, what will you do with everything you've learned? Silence isn't about them, it's about you. It's not about creating regret in their heart, it's about finding freedom in yours. It's not about making them notice your absence, it's about making your life so full that their presence, or lack of it, becomes irrelevant. The power of silence isn't in what it does to others, it's in what it builds within you. As Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The pain you've felt, the struggles you've endured, the silence you've faced, they aren't obstacles. They're the path forward. They're the fuel that will ignite your growth, your strength, and your freedom. Let me leave you with this. Your silence is a choice. You can choose to use it as a tool for transformation or as a chain that keeps you tied to the past. You can choose to dwell on what was or focus on what could be. You can choose to let their actions define you, or you can rise above. Write this next chapter not for them but for you. Build a life that speaks louder than words, a life that doesn't need their acknowledgement to feel complete. And in doing so, you'll not only reclaim your power, you'll inspire others to do the same. If this video resonated with you, let it be more than just words. Take action. Hit the like button and comment "I rise above" to declare your commitment to growth, strength, and freedom. And if you're ready to keep building, keep learning, and keep rising, subscribe to the channel. This is where we grow together, where we create legacies, and where we embrace the power of stoicism to transform our lives. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for choosing to rise. Here's to your strength, your freedom, and the incredible journey ahead. Let's move forward together.